our presentation. We're going to start off with introductions, and then we're going to go over the agenda and kind of go over what the plans for today. At the end of the day, again, this is always for you. So if you have any questions, or you want to chat about anything else, you want to see anything more in detail, just let me know through the Q&A. We'll be monitoring it as we go, just to make sure we're hitting all the points you want us to hit on today. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and kick it off to John to kind of lead over who eCapital is, what we're passionate about, kind of why we're here today talking, and kind of go from there. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Get the PowerPoint up.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. So again, thank you to everyone joining us here today. And as Jake mentioned, we're going to be doing a run through of automation, specifically as it relates to the Office of Finance. So moving right along to the next slide. As Jake mentioned, we'll start off with some introductions so you know who your co-hosts here are today. And then we'll be looking at what is the problem, or what are the problems that automation is solving for. What do we mean by robotic process automation, RPA, automation, and all the other buzzwords that are out there. From a macro scale, where is automation being leveraged today, and where's automation going? Then we'll specifically be looking at some common use cases we're seeing with our clients as it relates to the Office of Finance. And as Jake mentioned, we'll be doing a couple of demos with our preferred RPA solution, Automation Anywhere. And lastly, monitoring kind of Q&A as Jake touched on. So feel free to sit back, relax. I would say crack a cold one, but it's no longer St. Paddy's Day, so that's probably not acceptable. But Jake?
Yes, unfortunately, we're past drinking Guinness during the day, although I will never tell anyone not to do so. So if you are able to have a drink during lunch, be my guest. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Jake Robbins. I lead the automation side RPA practice here at eCapital Advisors. What I'd like to do is really help people understand how to use technology, not just RPA, but machine learning and other things like that, and how it fits into your organization to really grow your organization, scale, and drive efficiencies all over the place. Prior to joining eCapital, I actually worked for in the supply chain operations area for Anheuser-Busch for 4.5 years. There, I did a lot of transformational projects with machine learning, RPA, and kind of fell in love with this digital transformation area, and knew I had to switch over to a company where I can actually help more than just one company kind of utilize these tools. So luckily I was able to join up eCapital Advisors, loved it so far, keep loving to do so. And again, this is my passion, right? I've been doing automation activities since I was in middle school. I really do love this stuff. I think it's one of the most empowering tools out there today. And I can't wait to kind of talk over with you a little bit about where I see the industry going, kind of the use cases I see that hit home, and why I love automation. In my free time, everyone who knows me would know I'm a huge foodie. I go out to eat a lot of the times. I'm always looking for a new restaurant. I'm really big into movies since COVID happened, because obviously we're kind of limited in what we can do, and we're staying socially distant, but I've gotten really into movies. But as a lifelong traveler, I can't wait till the restrictions kind of get put aside so we can go travel again. So otherwise, I'm going to pass it on to John to give a quick introduction for himself.
Great. Thanks, Jake. John Kurth. I partner very closely with Jake here on the automation front, and really serve kind of as our sales leader here. So 100% dedicated to Jake and the success of all of his projects and our clients as well. Prior to eCapital, was at a web analytics and automation company. So been involved in the automation space for 7+ years now. And now that we're just coming into spring here in Minnesota, starting to enjoy the outdoors after being cooped up all winter. So to kind of set the scene for our discussion here today, really kind of wanted to start with who eCapital is and how we've been helping our clients over the last 20 years. So the big trend that I think we're all aware of, that's probably no secret, but data is everywhere now. There's so much that's readily available, not only from a personal level with the internet and social media, but from an organizational perspective as well. We're looking to track so many different things, and thankfully have the ability to do so. but there's common pitfalls to that of all of a sudden we create so much more noise that we have to cut through, and we may lose sight of, what's truly impacting our business. What are those business drivers? And especially since COVID, organizations are looking to do more with less. And so automation is one of the tools within our tool belt here today that we can help you focus on those more strategic tasks and initiatives, which is really where eCapital has been driving towards for the last 20 years that we've been in business. It is through 500 plus implementations now of various enterprise performance management, data and analytics solutions, advisory engagements, et cetera. It's really helping our clients empower themselves and therefore their business to truly be focusing on what matters. And the way we do that is really kind of through the three main pillars, as I like to say here at eCapital. So first being those typical Office of Finance tasks and systems of budgeting, planning, closing, consolidation, reporting, all of that fun stuff. But with this influx of data and analytics, now we need to make sure that we have modern data warehouses and data hubs that can truly handle all of this information, but still give us the agility and flexibility to not only get at the data quickly, but have it be scalable for us 2-3 years from now as we just continue to collect more and more. Then we need to have solutions that we can be able to visualize and see what's actually the data telling us versus using an Excel spreadsheet. And then lastly, how do we work, smarter, not harder with data science, machine learning, AI, and of course, automation. And then for the third pillar for eCapital, it's really around helping our clients define what is our data and analytics vision, where should we be striving towards, whether you have a clear vision or if it's more of a clean slate to say, hey, we don't know what we don't know. We just know that there's a better way than what we're currently doing today. So to kind of kick things off for Jake and his team, I don't know if it's Jake's favorite question to ask, but I know it's one of his top 5 to ask everyone. So Jake.
Yeah, and again, I've never heard the answer no, and unfortunately, this isn't the roundtable where you can answer back. So I'm going to take the answer as yes. If there was a way to remove your least favorite hour of your workday and replace it with your most favorite, would you jump on the opportunity? That is what automation is trying to do, right? It's trying to reduce the tedium of our work days to allow us to be more efficient, value-add employees. And when we phrase this question of almost this, new way of thinking, like, is there stuff I don't like doing? Is there a way to automate it? And when you think like that, you start to see kind of all of these opportunities within your own workday to automate things, because you're like, yeah, I bet I cannot do this anymore. And once you start removing these activities, you realize how much time you have and how much you can do and what value you can provide. So with that being said, I'm going to go over kind of the background of the industry, kind of why automation exists, what it's trying to tackle, kind of how it interfaces with our day-to-day operations. So the way I like to think about it is what I call the 3 C's, right? The common challenges. We all face the same challenges related to how we operate and how we go about our business and do our daily due diligences. The first one that I always see is consistency. So let's face it, right? Everyone here has made a mistake in their life. Everyone here has had an employee work with them who also made a mistake. These errors, no matter how, if it's a keystroke error or something that's really easy to do on mistake, they can cause large downstream costs, right? Imagine you're working with an invoice and all of a sudden you add an extra 0 and you charge your client, or your customer tons more money than they ever should have paid. That's a big problem, right? You can lose the engagement from that customer or client. You could lose that kind of trust that you have with them. And it's all because of a silly keystroke error, right? These things are things that we know happen, but we want to try to reduce as much as possible through automation. Another reason why we have a consistency issue is because we keep adding more and more applications to our enterprise as we progress through the years, right? I know back in 1980s, 1990s, we would have a lot less applications than we do today, especially with the rise of single purpose applications, right? Things that are made to do just one thing. When you keep adding those applications, not only are large trainings necessary to kind of understand how they work and the nuances between it, it also causes more of a consistency problem, right? The more things we interact with, the more chance that we run into an error. So when you have people interacting with more applications and with this pressure to be perfect, right, because errors cause large downstream effects, we kind of see this cultural impact take hold, right? This is where we start seeing our employees disengage with their work. And it's not because they don't like what they're doing, but there's a small portion of their job that they find incredibly frustrating, right? This need to be perfect and the need to learn and keep learning all these applications. With the tedium that these applications provide, people often disengage, right? Turn over, look for a new opportunity where it may be less tedious, right? Because people really want to work on things that are more strategic and they feel like they're actually making an impact to the bottom line. So when we take all three things into account and we kind of put our employees' well-being in the center, we kind of see how they can all connect, right? Consistency connects to complexity, which connects to culture, which then drives consistency up more, right? And if everything is going well, your employees, right, consistency is really solid, complexity is not that high, and your culture is very good where your employees are really engaging with activities and projects that they want to work for, everyone in the center is happy, right? You have the most engaged workforce ever. Everyone's going out of their way to do extra just because they fell in love with the culture of the company and the kind of the passion they'll let you hold. Now, if there's this drive for consistency with more complexity happening and the cultural pressure to be perfect that kind of comes with those two things happen, we start to see people disengage and turnover. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of benefits to RPA, and we will go over all of them, right? All of the cost reductions and the accuracy improvements that you see. But I do want you to keep in mind that there's always an employee effect when you bring automation into the play. So one thing that you'll hear commonly about automation is that we look for high frequency, low difficulty tasks, right? So when you start to map things out on a kind of this grid from frequency to task difficulty, things like 3-year planning, strategy, business development, we think of these as high IQ activities, right? Things that we know need a human touch to really drive home, right? We don't want a bot or an automated script deciding how we're going to plan for the next 6 years, right? There's too much uncertainty in the future that we really do like having a human element there still. Now, for things that are more common, right? Data entry, emailing, reading, copying, aggregating data, reporting out to our business, right? Following rules-based decision-making, account balancing, a lot of the things that happen in our treasury departments. These are what we call the automation sweet spot. Things that happen a lot of the time that are not that difficult to do, but kind of drown our days with, because all of us, no matter what role we're in, have to do some of these activities daily, right? And what automation is seeking to do is look at these high frequency, low difficulty tests and remove them from our workday. So at the end of the day, if you want to hear from me, what I think the goal of automation is, it really is to strip away the mundane and empower your employees to be the best versions of themselves, right? This is a very positive spin on RPA. And a lot of people will go out there and think that RPA is just a cost-cutting mechanism, right? It allows you to automate tests so that you can remove headcount from your organization. While that is possible, I really do think the greatest benefit that you will see is re-empowering your workforce and changing their ways of work to focus on the strategy, to focus on the value add instead of these mundane activities. So with that being said, we're going to kind of start over kind of what is RPA, right? And as John said, there are tons of buzzwords in this industry. ML, AI, right? Everyone has a different definitions for these things. So we like to take a step back for a second before we kind of go into the nitty gritty of what RPA does and how it works and define it, right? So Rpa Solutions to us are the softwares itself, which integrate into any environment and simulate employee actions. And that's important, right? Back in, when I first learned automation, it really wasn't about simulating employee actions, right? It was really more focused on scripting, right? Having a very structured script that went around and did a single action, and that's it. Well, with RPA tools, we've extended the capabilities, a lot of the beginning workflow programs that exist, and the basic scripting that we all had to do back in early 2000s, right? So some of the basic capabilities that come with an RPA platform are data entry, rule-based procedures, extracting data, validated data, report generation, and emailing, right? But at the end of the day, and we'll get into the tool later today, you'll see that the activities is always growing, right? Automation Anywhere and all the big RPA providers are continuously developing their tools, right? Adding more and more functionality as more and more things come important. So we'll be able to see things like Salesforce direct integration come about because of the need from the business side to automate some of the Salesforce activities. The same thing exists with SAP, right? SAP is one of the most popular ERP systems out there today. And with that comes the need to automate things within the environment. A lot of the RPA tools, including Automation Anywhere, have pre-built connections to SAP so that you're able to automate it quickly without having to understand the underpinnings of the application. But what are the cases, right? Today's about finance, though. We can talk on and on and on and on about the general use cases, but when we look at the financial realm, what are we really talking about here? So the first area that we see a lot of opportunity is this procure to pay, right? Setting up new vendors, finishing purchase orders, validating invoices, right? Reporting on what we're paying out. These are all things that happen very commonly, that are all very high frequency tasks with, at the end of the day, low difficulty, right? We might have to interact with more than one applications to do these things, but at the end of the day, it's just moving data around to get into the right place. Order to cash is another huge thing, right? New customer setup, invoice creation, collections, payment processing, figuring out who has a balance that we need to go after. And lastly, reporting, right? A lot of finance today is being the storyteller, understanding where your business is, where it's going, and informing everyone on the actions that need to take place to keep the organization afloat. Reporting all these things is often very tedious or requires the use of extra licenses to whatever EPM or ERP solution that you're using. Having RPA be able to take some of that away not only saves your licensing costs, but it really expands the usability of the data, right? At the end of the day, having the data be, siloed in different areas of the business doesn't really lead to growth. What we need to do is kind of express the data, almost showcase it so that everyone understands what the day-to-day business is doing and how it reports. So in financial operations, a lot of the reporting that gets done is around general ledger, right? Reconciliations, asset management, treasury operations. There's tons of things, right? Bank statement consolidation, cash flow forecasting, FX rate volatility checking. Tax operations is also huge, right? Provisioning your taxes, making sure that your taxes are compliant, managing the tax process. And then of course, budgeting, forecasting, and variance reporting are also very huge things in finance. So with all of these activities, right, there are almost unlimited amount of opportunity in finance and accounting to automate processes away. But moreover, for me, just kind of saying these activities can be automated, the most important thing to take away today is that if you have a process in mind and you have it mapped out, I can almost promise you it can be automated, right? The RPA systems today and the software is made to be so generalizable that regardless of the application you're using, we can still automate within it. And that's where the power comes, right? It's the idea that regardless of how your operations work, regardless of how many levels of validation that need to pass, we can still automate through that validation scheme or through those applications to get to the reports or to get to the processes that we need to do. So let's talk about other reasons for excitement with RPA. So the first thing, and I already touched on, is this improved employee morale, right? This is what I always like to say first. This is the thing that hits closest to me as a manager of people. When I was at AB, one of the jobs I had to do was to manage a team of 8 forecasters and inventory managers. One of the most tedious things in their day-to-day operations, though, was actually inputting the forecast into our forecasting system so that we can keep track of how much we needed to produce. Well, if you looked at it and you looked at how many forecasting kind of daily due diligences every forecaster had to do in a week horizon, they had a forecast for multiple locations, 12 weeks out for every SKU each distributor that I had managed sold. And when you looked at it, it was over 35,000 forecasted numbers that needed to be re-entered every week. It was just too much. We ended up automating this process away, which not only freed up my team from having to do all this manual data entry, right? It used to be pretty much their entire day, to focus on sales communication, fixing out of stocks, and lowering supply chain loss. And through all that activity, right, through automation, we were able to save multiple millions of dollars by refocusing our team into doing these value add activities instead. The other thing, and this is a very commonly reason why people are excited about RPA, is they can execute these processes faster than everyone else, at least 10 times faster. And this ranges from whatever we do, right? So when we're processing invoices, we notice between 5 to 20 times faster than a human. One fun thing I know Mike, who's going to talk later, did last night, just to see if he can do it, was typing, right? The fastest human typer ever was at 212 words per minute, but RPA can effectively type at 500 words per minute, right? 2 times faster than the fastest typer. When you think about that, right, almost every activity that involves typing, which is pretty much everything we do, is automatically going to be done faster than as a robot because it's already 2.5 times faster than the fastest human types. It's amazing stuff. Reliability, right? We like to think of a robot as a digital employee that has no HR department. They're always there, always ready to work, and they're never down. it's super consistent, right? You're setting up the map, you're setting up the validation schemes. So it's going to follow your rules 100% of the time. There's no way for the bot to reconfigure its code on the fly and start to deviate from what you set up, right? It's going to follow what you set up. So at the end of the day, if you do a good job of setting up the RPA process, it's super sustainable in the long term. The next two kind of go hand in hand. They're non-invasive solutions, and they also strengthen the governance, right? Having RPA in place allows for the auditability of almost every action we do. And with that auditability, we really allow ourselves to kind of streamline operations and really give everyone in the organization the feedback that they want to make sure the processes are happening the correct way. Also, these softwares are very non-invasive. You can either pick them to be cloud hosted or on-premise, and that allows us to kind of validate whatever restrictions we have internally or you have set up internally, right? VPNs, making sure that it doesn't download files from obscure websites. All of that is very possible within our RPA platform. It's also HIPAA compliant, SOX 2 compliant. It's used within all industries and some of the biggest companies out there. So every rigor of security and kind of safety has already been passed. It's also a very low technical barrier. So this wasn't always the case. When I first started automating, I needed to learn how to code, right? I needed to learn how to code in JavaScript and in Python to really make the most out of my automation scripts. That's changed now. You'll see this later today. Almost everything is drag and drop, right? The tools that are being made today are made for the citizen developer, right? The strong business analyst who just wants to make your business run better. And lastly, it's accurate, right? You don't have to worry about error handling because you know that the bot's going to follow your process and follow everything correctly. So it just works. Again, there are tons more benefits. We can go on days and days for all the benefits, right? And some of them are going to be unique to your business, right? It all goes around if you want to understand a lot of the benefits that you can have with RPA, think about how much time I spend on a process, what can my employee be doing else otherwise, and what is the cost of errors for the process that I do today. And when you take all those three things into account, you really get to start to see the benefits that RPA provides. But let's talk a little bit about the industry before we go into some use cases and some demos. The point of this slide, right, and the point of actually really the next two slides is to show you that you're not alone, right? If you wanted to go into RPA and you really are interested in this technology and want to see how it can really truly transform your business to be the most efficient that it can be, nearly 9 out of 10 manufacturing, media, publishing, energy, banking, and finance, right? That's especially useful for today's talk, have some form of RPA already implemented in their business, right? That's a huge number. And this study was done in 2019. If we looked at 2021, post-COVID, these numbers are all up, right? People have really noticed during the pandemic that having a safety blanket of bots, right, to really run our operations while, people are dealing with, at-home learning or getting better and staying socially distant, having that layer of bots to kind of go and do our daily due diligence has only pushed this number up. So even in the public sector, where only 25% of people have used RPA, we really are seeing that number grow pretty fast. And as far as functions, right, this kind of goes back to my catchphrase, right? If it can be mapped, it can be automated. It's true, right? We see it all over. All facets of the business are either have something developed or really want something to be developed in the future. Billing and payments, inventory management, sales, right? Almost 80% of people have developed or planning development in the near future. A lot of the finance functions we see as the top use cases, right? This is because of that storytelling aspect. If I don't have to make my reports, if I don't have to burst the reports out, if I don't have to consolidate the information, I can spend more time doing the analysis, telling the story, and making sure the business is moving in the right direction. One last fact before we move into the demos and kind of some use cases that we like to kind of share. So RPA is a promising new development. This is from 2017, where the first bot that you promote, right, has a potential ROI of 3,200 to 200% in the first year. This is also a low estimate. Oftentimes it's even more. The more people touching a process, the more beneficial automation will be. So with that being said, we're going to go through a couple of use cases, a lot more detailed around finance operations, treasury operations, and then move into 3 demos and open up for Q&A. But before I do that, I want to take a quick break. I know we went over a lot of information right now. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to press the escape button so I can go look at the chat log. And if anyone has any questions, I'll answer them before we kind of move on. All right, seems like we're good. Awesome. So one of the interesting use cases that we see all the time is this idea of quote to cash, right? Let's say we're a consumer products company and our customer needs to make an order, and at the end of the day, we need to ship the good out to them, and we need to receive the cash for that invoice. When we look at this process and we look at the map of the applications we need to use, this is kind of when I'm talking about complexity. What do I mean? What do I mean? You know, interacting with Salesforce, Adobe, DocuSign, Outlook, custom applications internally, Excel, Salesforce, Workday, right? There's so many applications that we need to interact with to finish this process, with human validation steps in between. So when we look at actually going through this quote to cash process, it can take a long time. And it's not the human's fault, right? They're going as fast as they can within their workdays. It's just when you add this much layers of complexity to every single process, it takes longer and longer to finish things out. So when we go from a simple, sending a customer a good and receiving the payment at the end of the day, it can take 30 days, a month. It's a long time. Second. But when we start doing things with automation, right, and looking at these applications as not need things that need to be human interacted and things that we can have a bot do on the backhand side, we start to see this process really quicken. What used to take 30 days to interact with all of these different steps ends up only taking 5, right? 6 times faster than doing it with having a human do it. And again, this comes to the point of automation, right? We're figuring out ways to interact with Salesforce, Adobe, Box, DocuSign, Outlook, custom applications, so that the steps that you're taking, the bot is taking as well, but it's doing it faster than you can when without errors. Again, huge benefit, right? To be able to take something that took 30 days to something to make it take 5. Accounts receivable. This is also a hugely impactful area of the Office of Finance that we see automation being taken hold all the time. So one of the things we often see, right, is we have an invoice get sent to us, we receive it, we download it. We can then throw it into the Iqbot. We're going to show this off too today. Iqbot is a machine learning enabled OCR that is able to read invoices and parse out the information for us. And this is a really cool development, right? Because when we think RPA in the past, it was always structured data. But having a machine learning enabled OCR engine in the back of the platform allows us to really start to look at unstructured data more and start to derive value from it. Once it goes through the machine learning OCR process, we can extract the data from these invoices and log into SAP and enter them through, matching it with the purchase order and goods receipts, and if there's an exception, handing it off to an AP manager to handle. But if it's successful and everything is correct in SAP, we can actually send the email out too to say, hey, it was successful. We approve the invoice and eventually receive the payment. Again, although there's 4 or 5 different applications that's being used throughout the process, that's okay, right? That doesn't matter. The more and more applications, it's okay. Automation is made to be generalizable so that can interact with all of these things. And lastly, Treasury Operations, right? This is a huge opportunity. And a lot of the times eCapital hosts roundtables, and hopefully you guys have joined some of them before too. And these are often about, hey, how can we be better FP&A workers, right? What are the things that we do? What is the technology that can provide us to really revolutionize how we go and do our daily operations? Treasury is one of the most promising areas for RPA because of how much due diligence and how much comparisons are necessary to keep it afloat, right? Cash position reporting and forecasting, right? Downloading and consolidating bank statements, importing and reconciling cash transactions, something we're going to show off later. Aggregating cash projections, right? These are all things that RPA does really well. Foreign exchanges, right? Importing FX rates, aggregating FX transactions, automating hedging transactions too. Things that we may have to do day in, day out can really be automated away now through the use of RPA. And lastly, payment processing, right? Digitizing and validating payment requests, executing the payments, and performing the bank statement reconciliations. So let's go through one example, right? The daily cash balance calculations and reconciliation, right? So the first thing we might have to do is download and consolidate all of our daily bank transactions and balances, right? And normally this would be done from a human, right? Going in and out through all of our banks, getting all of the files, or having an EDI transfer come over so we have a file already made for us. so that we can kind of understand where our money is. Once we have that, download all of our transactions from the general ledger so we can compare them. Reconcile all of the transactions and identify non-matching items. We can add the deposits into transit and deduct outstanding checks, and have the things that could not be matched hand over to a manager. We can adjust for bank errors, service fees, and interests. We can then post it to the general ledger and validate and make sure everything equals at the end of the day. This whole process, right, from the start of downloading the cash balances to validating that everything is correct in our systems, is totally automatable, right? Can you imagine that every day you had a bot helping you do your cash balance? It's amazing, right? This is stuff that's truly impactful, because once you start to look at the operations internally, you really start to see the potential with automation. So with that being said, gives us 25 minutes for demoing. But before I hand it off to Mike to show off some of the demos, I wanted to quickly go into the tool to kind of showcase the usability and some of the more interesting features of it. So I'm going to log into Automation Anywhere now. So once I log in, what you'll see on the left-hand side is all of the different areas of the tool, right? So the dashboard helps us understand all the bots we created, how often they run, kind of gives us a sense of what the bots are doing. The bots area is actually where we develop the bots. And then we see the added functionalities, right? Discovery bot is a new functionality that was just created by Automation Anywhere to watch you go as you work and understand what processes you're doing can be automated and already start automating them for you, right? It's kind of that overlooker that's looking for things that can be more efficient, right? Think of it almost as a consultant, right? It's your automation consultant. It's going to figure out in your daily operations, just by watching your screen, what is potentially automatable and give you the ROI estimation on that. Iqbot we're going to go after, which is the machine learning enabled OCR engine, right? OCR is just optical character recognition. It's essentially computer vision. We're going to go over that right after I go the basic user interface. So I'm going to click into my bots. And I'm going to create a new bot by clicking this button up here. I'm going to call it new bot. Awesome. And right away, we kind of start to understand the user interface. So we have a start and a stop, right? We start our process and we're going to end it at the end of the time. The triggers up here is an area where we can set the bot to run on a trigger. So let's say we want to wait to run our bot until an invoice gets posted or on our schedule, right? Started every day at 6 a.m. We can place those things up here so that we can dynamically have the bot start without our need to actually click this run button up here. But on the left-hand side, what you'll see is all of the different pre-built functionalities, right, out of the box, no coding necessary, things that this bot, that Automation Anywhere can do. So if I were to type in emailing, right, we can already see all the different email actions that comes right up, you know, deleting all emails from a certain box. If we had a shared mailbox that needed to be consistently cleaned, forwarding emails, replying emails, saving attachments from emails, sending emails, right? Almost everything we need to do within an email environment can be done through automation. Excel is the same way. If I type in Excel, I'll already have the ability to pretty much interact with Excel in any way I need to, right? Hiding worksheets, going to cells, running macros if we do have macros, retrieving sheet counts, right? The list goes on and on and on and on and on, right? And it keeps getting added to, right? That's the power of these systems. SAP. If I type in SAP, already I have different things we can do with SAP, right? We can send virtual keys to SAP directly. We can click things, we can connect, we can get cell accounts, we can go to different transactions, right? There's even an SAP2 down here that tells us even more actions we can do. And this is very, very, very common with us, with RPA, is the ability to have these pre-built connections almost to really fasten the time to automate and allow us to automate without having to understand the way it's coded. There's also this recorder up here, which I'm not going to run because you'll see it when Mike runs his scripts later. This helps us understand and interact with almost every application. Think of it as a macro on steroids. It watches us as we go and keeps track of the different areas of the website or the application we're interacting with and automatically parses it into actions, usually these record actions on our process map, right? That allows us to quickly, let's say if we needed to interact with a website, figure out how it's built and have the actions already be placed in our automation map without actually having to do the code ourselves. And again, this is really why we chose this software. We believe it's the most user-friendly and allows us to automate the fastest to get your ROI the quickest. So with that being said, I'm going to move over to Iqbot just to kind of showcase how this works and how awesome it is. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the tool, especially because I always found document reading very tedious, but with things such as this, where we're able to do it automatically, just so empowering. So we're going to create a new instance from scratch by clicking this new instance button. And here it's kind of going to showcase us the way that this works. So I'm going to call this, new test, something like this. For document type, I'm going to click invoice. Now I'm going to browse for one invoice. So I already have an invoice folder. Click invoice one. I'm going to open this up so you see what it looks like before I run it through the OCR engine. Awesome. So we see this is a fake invoice. We're going to actually show this processing through to completion during one of our demos. But we can see that it's for branded shirts, right? We understand that there's this bill. It's very organized, but we just need to read this information without having for us to do it. So what I'm going to do is actually set the fields that I want to capture in the tool. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to change these to match the fields on the invoice. So we're going to take, let me just get my alt tabs correct, the date, right, the due date. So let's duplicate this right here, the balance, and we'll do the bill too as well. And for the table, we're going to do quantity. We're going to do item, rate, and amount. I'm then going to hit this create instance and analyze button. And this is going to start the OCR process, right? Gives us this awesome graphic, basically how in the background these systems work, right? They're called neural nets, so they try to visualize that for you. Takes about a minute, and then we'll see it processing through. And here we're going to be able to check, what information it parsed out, so that we can see for the date, right? It understands that without me doing anything, right? I haven't touched anything. This is all by itself. It figured out that the date metric was 315. Found out the balance was 2160, and found that who I'm billing to is Carolyn Reed, right? I didn't tell where in the document this was. It's actually reading the text and understanding where these fields are. What this allows it to do is that even if there was an invoice of a different format, you can put it through the same instance, right? You don't have to create an instance for every different invoice type. Quantity, it found quantity, and I'm going to just tell it, hey, that's the quantity I want you to take for the item. For the capital brand shirts, for the rates, it's right here. For the amount, it's right here. If I see the extraction results, we can see that it parsed all this information correctly. Again, what's really cool about this is now that this is a learned instance, I can throw every invoice from eCapital into this bot, and it will always correctly parse the information out for use. Really powerful stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Mike. I'm going to stop my sharing and let him reshare his deck. I'm not on my normal computer, so my computer isn't necessarily set up for the automation anywhere demos, but Mike's going to help me out here. So awesome. So the first thing we're going to show, kind of going off at Iqbot, is invoice processing, right? So you just saw the invoices we're working with. However, we created a form that we're actually going to enter that information to. So we're going to follow pretty much the same way you would follow an AP or an AR process, enter that invoice into this form that we created, match it, submit the order invoice so that it's processed through our system. In reality, you would often not use a website, you use your ERP system, but for ease of use and for the access that we have, or the tools we have available to us, it makes most sense to do this. So without further ado, we're going to run through how this automates. And again, the really cool part about this, when we run these demos, is that me, Mike, John, we're not touching anything, right? We're letting the automation take hold and run through the process without any interference from us.
All right. So this is the process. This is one of the reasons that we like automation anywhere, is you're going to see how quickly Jake and I get back and forth between the code and how non-invasive it is and easy it is. So Jake was just in that system. I'm going to log in and basically show up the exact same screen. I'm already in here, going to go to our demo assets. And the one that we're looking for is the invoice processing demo. It's that easy. We have it here and we just hit run. I'm going to have my hands up, but even if I didn't, I imagine you wouldn't believe that I'm able to type all this information out quick enough. So you'll see, it's pretty cool to watch. And this is just kind of an idea of your electronic worker, right? It's going to use the Iqbot. It's already gotten all the invoice data, parse it out into an Excel document where we have data that we can easily use. Then the bot's going to take that data, go through the form, fill everything out. And then this actually automatically emails Jake. So Jake already would have the email when it goes through. And it'll do this for every customer we have.
And again, Mike, if you want to hold your hands up just to prove that.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I wish I could type this fast, but unfortunately I cannot.
Yeah, this is when we talk about that 500 words per minute, right? Faster than a human can. It really is true. And again, we do this example with only 4 invoices, but you could essentially have this run all day, right? So as invoices get generated or we receive things through email, continually parse them and make sure that they're flowing through your system.
And there are a lot of jobs out there where data entry is basically, like Jake said, the 24/7 job. So I always like to think that people can be doing more important tasks, more meaningful things for the business than just this. So we can automate that, then we open up more opportunity for real business improvements. And I believe that that's the last one.
Perfect. So we're going to go on to our next demo now.
Yep.
Again, these are really quick. The problem with RPA demoing is by nature, because these things are so fast, everything goes pretty quickly. The cash reconciliation demo, which is the last one we're going to do today, we actually have slowed down a bit. There's definitely faster ways to do it, but we wanted to keep it visual for you guys so you can really see what it's doing, right? You can really see the motions of the automation and how it's working. So one of the most common requests that we have is, can we burst reports? And the answer is absolutely. So Mike, if you go to the next slide. So one thing that happens all the time, and this is with almost every EPM solution out there, or ERP solution, is we need to keep adding licenses so people can have this read-only access to our applications, right? They don't need to make any changes. They don't need to input anything. But at the end of the day, our executives want the ability to view that data and have a good understanding of it, right? And a lot of the times, to even get these reports, you need a license. So we understand that. We know it's costly. And one of the things RPA can do is really help reduce that costs. We can create service accounts to, create new SharePoint folders, log into an EPM solution, run reports, email them, file them into SharePoint, and then eventually you receive them at the end of the day without having to purchase additional licenses and really bypass a lot of that restriction. So the ERP or the EPM solution we're going to show off today is Adaptive Insights. But again, it's super generalizable. So whatever EPM solution you use, we're totally able to burst reporting out of it. So without further ado, Mike, if you want to start this one.
Yep. So again, super easy. We just back out adaptive burst reports and we can start running the spot now. And there we go, hands up. And essentially what this one's going to do is just going to log in, go to the reporting page, and where maybe you'd have to pay for a license or someone would have to manually go in here and do it and then email it out. It's just going to do all that for you. So say when you get in the office in the morning, all the reports that you care about are sitting in your inbox and you're ready to go. You're not wasting any time.
Again, fully automatic, right? Almost every system is automatable just like this one. So the first report we're going to run, we're going to hit the top button there, export it to Excel. We then do some changing of the wording of the file. You don't actually see this because it does all in the background. And what Mike will show you at the end is that he's already got the email for the first report while this is running. It's that awesome, right? It's so seamless, right? You don't notice it doing all these things, but it really is helping you run your business in the background where you don't have to worry about getting these reports or bursting them out to whoever needs them. It's done automatically.
Yeah, just
So,
like
Mike, if you
that,
want to
it's already done.
Yep. Show your email.
Yep. Go to the top and we have both reports in here. The other one's coming. There it is. And you can
And
see
you can see that
nothing too special, but it's just basically the report right to you.
And again, we could always change the format of these reports, fix the Excel books, add graphics to it, right? We can almost do everything because Excel is very automatable, either through VBA or through the implicit actions that are on in Automation Anywhere. Again, really cool stuff. And what's also awesome is we actually filed it away into the correct folder as well.
Oh, that's right. Let me show that off too.
So
here we go.
Yeah, you can see that for today's date, we have 2021, 3/18, and we have all of our files from today's run. This can grow and grow and grow. So when we talk about SharePoint integration with these reports, imagine it creating SharePoint folders for you and placing these files for consumption from everyone without you having to do anything. It's really amazing. So one more demo from us before we leave the last 8 minutes or so, 7 minutes or so to questions. So let's talk cash reconciliation, right? So the first thing we often do is download our bank receipts, right? We'll have remittance numbers, some routing numbers, and account numbers. What we first want to do is check our ERP invoice, AR transaction data, and see if we can match the remittance number to the transaction number. If we can, we're good to go and we import it in. However, we know that's not always going to be the case. So then we're going to look through our routing history or customer table, right? And understand, hey, did this customer assign the correct routing number and account number? If they did, auto import to the system. Otherwise, send it to a manager to review, right? Then this is very common practice within the Treasury department to make sure that we're keeping track of all the checks we receive and pinning the credit to the right accounts. So without further ado, we're going to kind of open an Excel book and showcase how you can do this automatically.
Yeah, so I will go here. I will also show kind of the file support just so we know what we're looking at. Cash demo. So these are the receipts that we would get from the bank. Really, we would download them and probably have to clean them up. But for the sake of this demo, they are already kind of in nice Excel format. But this is the information that we would get. And you can kind of see sometimes the data that we get is not perfect. So we have some data missing. We have our list of transactions all randomly in there. And we have some routing info too. So like Jake said, it'll try to match this information and automatically do that. And then we'll know whether it's just automatically in the system or needs manual processing. So we'll go ahead, close this and run the bot. And again, no hands. And yeah, we did slow it down too. It could do this whole table instantly, but for the purpose of the demo, so it's not 2 seconds long, this is what it would look like how a person would do it, really. Either copy and pasting or typing these all out. And as you can see, it's much quicker than any human can do. So
yeah, and we could always extend the capability of this bot too, right? Have it automatically download the bank receipts. Have it automatically connect to your ERP system to get the AR transaction table. Right? Things like that always allow us to further automate the process away until at the end of the day, it's completely done. So you don't have to even touch it and you know it's just going to work. Again, super powerful technology. And it's kind of why I fell in love with this stuff to begin with.
And then what was emailed out is basically the log. So we have our import log, just a record of what was actually automatically imported into our ERP system or wherever we needed to go. And then our manual log. So whoever the owner is of this process can go in here and actually manually review these. And very easy, would run in the morning and then it's just there and you can start your day very quickly. And I believe that's
everything.
Everything, yeah.
So we did fit it, right, for enough time to allow us to have some questions at the end. I know we went over a lot of things today, right? 3 use cases where we didn't show a demo and 3 more use cases where we did. A lot of industry overview, a lot of terms to take away. Of course, we'll be publishing the webinar and also publishing the deck so you have the ability to view it at your leisure or kind of better understand kind of how it plays. Also, we always like to say you're always free to reach out to me, Mike, John, to learn more about RPA, simple things. If you want us to look at your processes, have an understanding of, hey, I don't know, I only know what I know, right? Let you guys come in, tell me what processes are automatable so that I know what to bring up to the executives to say I want to kind of really enhance our business with automation, right? We're here for you, right? At the end of the day, we want to make you guys feel as your most empowered self through the use of automation. So with that being said, I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes to questions. Kind of anyone free to ask anything, right? It doesn't have to be about today's demo. It could be about internal processes that you have questions on. If they can be automated, it could be about my favorite restaurant. It doesn't matter. This is for you. Also, if you have ideas for next webinars, right, we like to host these all the time. So if you have some topic where you're really interested in, right, or you want to see a demo in, like I would really want to see a demo around, oh, I don't know, some HR recruiting aspects, things like that. Just let me know, right? We're here to kind of showcase the abilities of the tool. So how does this work with financial planning? The two biggest things that we see kind of beneficial in financial planning is one, bursting the reports around it, right? Always getting people to understand kind of what their impacts are, how they need to better plan. The other thing is reconciling different manual inputs from different locations, right? If there were areas where, let's say, demand planning has its own kind of expectations of where the market or where our market's going to go, and then the sales side has different expectations, we can have a bot help reconcile that data to make the best point possible. Lastly, with the forecasting process, yeah, that manual data entry is always a really good use case for the financial planning organization, right? If we have an Excel book and we need to reformat the data into our EPM solution, let Rpa do it, right? It's going to be able to do it faster, more accurately, so that you know the numbers you're putting into whatever system at the end of the day is going to be correct. A great question. And I saw one in the chat. Is this section recorded? I would love to share this with our controller. Absolutely. Yep, it is recording right now, and we'll be able to share it with on our website. So you will see a link at the end emailed out to you with the recording and also any of the questions that come about. Got a couple more minutes, right? We'll stay on the line. You're free to go if you have no questions. Did you have a demo? How this would work around budgeting? We don't have a demo made for budgeting yet, but we'd be happy to create one if that would interest the audience, right? We're here for you. So if you want to learn how to budget better with automation, we can absolutely make one for the next lunch learn. We try to host these very frequently so that you always have a voice to hear around automation, around technology that's developing and new things, right? One thing that's really cool about Automation Anywhere is they just partnered with Google last week. So they're going to be Google's preferred automation software, which is, again, just shows you a lot of the bigger players in the tech industry really coming around to these tools and to understand how they best fit. But yeah.
I was going to say, I think future integration with just a bunch of different platforms is likely going to happen, especially with Google picking them up. So I would look forward to maybe more just native integration with some of these systems too.
And Google is also trying to push the AI and machine learning enabled actions within the tool too. So you're going to see a lot of cool functionality come in Automation Anywhere very soon because of that partnership. And they are only partnering with Automation Anywhere. So again, really cool to see, again, one of the largest tech companies really find as much love for this product as we have. So you mentioned HR function in passing. I find that the most tedious part of my process, being shortlisting suitable candidates out of a database. Please prepare a demo to show us how the product can automate that. Yeah, trust me, I actually used to do executive recruiting. I understand completely. It's one of the most time-consuming processes, and when you start to merge automation with some machine learning to have a better sense of who the candidates are, right? Doing text comparisons and text sentiment analysis and kind of certification, kind of validation, you really can see the benefit with automation and machine learning to help out HR functions. Great question. Got 1 minute left, and I actually have a hard stop because I actually have another presentation to make. I love doing this stuff, so I'm always moving to make more presentations and kind of help expand the benefits of RPA out there. So you'll see me post on LinkedIn. You'll see me do these talks all the time. Again, if you ever have a question, feel free to reach out to me. Every time we do this, you get a free lunch. So if anything, me as a foodie would come to these just so I can kind of explore more what are the options or what are the restaurants out there in my local area. So again, thank you for coming. If you have any further questions, please reach out to us. We're here for you.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I'm glad we got to share some of what we do and what we're passionate about. So like Jake said, email me with anything. I love helping people. So that's what we're here to do.
So talk soon. Bye.
See ya.